Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody, and welcome along to the Prototype Cup Germany second race of 2022. Ben Constantinos and me, John Hindhaugh, in the booth. Joe Bradley down on the grid as the cars have come through, and we've had some drama before the cars have even got to the grid, because we had a spinner warming up the tyres right in front of us, and this is the 777 Inter Europol car, and just missed hitting the wall on the Grand Prix pit straight at the driver's right-hand side. That was very, very close indeed for Damien Klozek. But he'll be wide-eyed. The car will have a little bit of a dirt on it on the right-hand side. But other than that, phew-wee, as we were just waiting to come to you live, that happened right in front of our commentary booth. Joe Bradley is down on the grid, taking in the atmosphere. And I think Damien Klozek will not be wanting to talk to you, Joe. Good morning.
Well, we're going to try, aren't we? Because I've just made my way. I was at the front of the grid to talk to TalkSport, who's on the pole position after winning race 1 of the Prototype Cup Germany. But let's have a look at this Inter Europol card, see if we can see any traces. Oh, it's clean. Did you see the right-hand side, John?
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Well, the right-hand side is all present and correct. The left-hand side looks pretty. So he hasn't really done anything. He hasn't even dirtied the car. Let's see if we can get a word with the his co-driver.
Just got to feel that grip now. It is very cold.
So guys, little bit of a drama on the warm-up lap. I'm not going to talk to the driver. What's he said?
I think the tyres are very cold. It's obviously really cold this morning, colder than yesterday. Even the sun's only just come out. So yeah, just cold tyres and yeah, a small loop, which hopefully helped warm the tyres up more for the start of the race.
Always a silver lining, James. James Widlow is the driver I'm talking to. That just shows how tricky these cars are on the cold tyres. But obviously, once we get into the race, that's not a factor.
Yeah, I think on these cold mornings, and the tyres new as well with the shine, so it's very, very tricky. It's almost like driving on ice for the first half a lap. European Le Mans Series, we have tyre warmers. This series, there's no tyre warmers, so it's down to the new drivers to get as much temp in them as soon as they can. And that's, yeah, a tricky job.
Thanks, James. I'll leave you to your last debrief or brief before we have to clear the grid. Guys, we're already clearing the grid. We're going to get this race 2 for the Prototype Germany series underway. I'm off. I'm being pushed.
Joe Bradley for the Prototype Cup Germany 2022 on pole position, TalkSport WRT. This is the number 7 car with the hexagonal sort of spider's web pattern on it. It'll be Marvin Dean's 2 starts this morning, alongside Donna Munding for Mullner Motorsport in the number 2. That's Alicia and a Duquesne on the front row. On the row 2, Torsten Kratz for Wochenspiegel team Monschau in another Duquesne. That's the number 11. He'll hand over to Leo Weiss. Then it's Axel Jeffries for Conrad Motorsport. He's driving on his own in the Ginetta. Franz Conrad slated to drive that car, but chipped a bone in his elbow, which meant he couldn't drive. He's still here, and none other than none other than Herr Juttner. Yes, the big fella himself, ex of Audi Sport and of Yost Racing, is helping out that team. He says he's in retirement, but I'm not sure Ralph is ever going to retire. On row 3, Kurai and Kempi Motorsports didn't have a great race yesterday. Not sure who the starting driver is going to be there, whether it'll be Sebastian or Jesse. Alongside them, Racing Experience. Gary Hauser will start. Sebastian von Gartzen will take over. 2 Duquesnes there. Then 2 Ligier's Reiter Engineering with Eike Angemeyer starting, hanging over to Florian Janitz. They did it the other way around yesterday. Damien Klozek, we've seen this 777 Inter Europol competition car. Jamie Winslow will take that over. That's the yellow and green car. Gebhardt Motorsport, Michael Hedisch will hand off to Jakob Erlbacher. And Nielsen Racing is alongside John Melsom and Matt Bell. for that Duke. And if you recognise the Gebhard Motorsport team, that is the same Gebhard Motorsport who go all the way back in prototype racing to the 1980s in C2 racing at Le Mans and places like that. The 6th row, P11, Speed Factory Racing, Santiago Concepcion will be starting that car. So we get 3/4 of a lap, effectively, maybe a little bit more than that, Ben, before we come through. Great opportunity to talk about the changes here. All the grandstands to drivers left on that downhill start-finish straight have disappeared. New grandstand at the top of Radion, and much better sight lines through Eau Rouge now.
Yeah, the wall's been moved back down the stretch towards the bottom of the hill, the Eau Rouge River, that actually doesn't just run underneath that part of the circuit, runs through the whole of the circuit, the Eau Rouge River, and they do cross it again further around the lap, interestingly. Not much changes around here, the Kemmel Straight and Le Combe, where obviously in the early 80s they diverted off left, and then we start to change tarmac once more. Little bit more of a gravel trap on the outside of Bruxelles, a lot bigger changes into what is now known, of course, as Jackie Ickx Corner, with the bike track on the inside. That is a shortcut of where the track used to be. We are told that the track that they take through Speaker's Corner, now known as Jackie Ickx, is exactly the same as it was before. The camera position is different, and it does make it look quite different, but certainly the drivers are confirming it's the same. More gravel on the outside of Pouin, and the wall's been moved further back. So as you can see, a lot of construction still going on around the Pouin and Fagnes part of the circuit.
Heading downhill all the way down from Le Combe through to Fagnes, which is where the safety car is now. Again, a bit of work on the left-hand side. Gravel trap right up pretty much to the edge of the white line in that area of the circuit, through Campos and what I still want to call Stavelot of Paul Frere, and huge gravel traps again right up to the white line on driver's left. So if you used to be able to put a wheel or a couple of wheels off, in fact go all the way off there and get the car back on, this is where the old circuit comes back in, and then it's the long run through to Blanchimont, which has gained gravel on the outside as well.
Yeah, gained gravel. The wall's been moved further back as well. A place where we saw a bit of action yesterday in the 24H Series race that we are supporting here at Spa-Francorchamps. A place where you could, again, release the steering wheel and run wide if you hadn't got it quite right. You can do it a little bit. There is still a little bit of tarmac there, but it's not as much. And then they have changed the gravel trap into the chicane here. Not a great deal, and certainly the actual layout is the same on the racetrack.
There's just a little trapezoidal shape there, and we did have a TCR car manage to wedge itself between the two tyre stacks that are in the straight on position there. Round 2 of the Prototype Cup Germany 2022, 11 cars. The V8 engines rise, and we are heading off down towards La Source. Huge lock-up from the outside of the front row from Müller Motorsports, Donna Munting, and he's going to struggle to keep that car and keep that position. He's dropped down at least a couple of positions, maybe more. Oh, he's down into 5th or 6th now. Good start from Marvin Dienst in the Talksport car. He's managed to stretch it away a little bit. The 7 car has got breathing space. Mistake at the top of the hill, and through comes the Conrad car. That's Axel Jeffries. And there's a problem. Pit lane speed limiter on one of the cars there. I could see the rear lights flashing, and that car is dropping all the way at the back. I wonder if they've just knocked that and not realised what is going on. But I think that's the Speed Factory car, is it not? That's one of the cars that was sharper up the field. Terrible start for the front row sitter, Donna Mundig, who is dropping way back. Great start for Marvin Dienst. Wonderful run as well for Axel Jeffries in the dark-coloured car with the teal blue, the Conrad blue. Oh, it's almost Leighton House blue, isn't it, on that car as they head through the first time down through Bruxelles. And I reckon the Conrad car is up to 3rd position.
Yeah, that's we called that the Patronus colours yesterday morning.
Yes, that's right.
Axel Jeffries on his own, as we've already mentioned, so he can get himself into a rhythm. Wasn't particularly spectacular in the first part of yesterday's race, which was heavily compromised by a safety car, if you remember. We are safely through with all 11 cars through the majority of this first lap. It was around this part of the lap where we saw 2 cars retire. The Nielsen Racing Duquesne is on track with Melsom. I can't remember which 2 cars were actually parked up on the outside. Karainen, which is up into 5th, so that's good news that they're running.
And the other one was, oh, come on, John, you should have written that down yesterday. I think it was Racing Experience, wasn't it?
Wasn't it not Nielsen? I think it was Nielsen.
Of course it was.
Yeah.
That was the car that was badly damaged. John Melsom's car, right rear. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, so they are out on track, which is good news because it was a pretty heavily damaged car, which means our entry list is back to being full again. And they are about to complete lap 1. Change for 3rd position, though. Good dive down the inside. And here is a replay of the start.
Start's being looked at. So did somebody break ranks too early? Race control having a look. Huge lock-up on the left-hand side of the track by the outside pole sitter, and that Miller Motorsports, the white and blue car, just dropping like a stone. That was the opportunity for Axel Jeffries to go through into 3rd. So it's Dienst, Krantz, Jeffries, Gary Hauser for Racing Experience. That's Talksport, Wochenspiegel, Conrad Racing, and the Karajan Kempe Motorsport car, which was involved yesterday, was the car that dropped to the back, and it was started by Jesse Salman Autio. It looked to me as though that was on the pit lane speed limit going up Eau Rouge, and that car was eaten up. We've stayed under green flag, though. Everybody's got round. And this is a time-certain race of 50 minutes plus 1 lap. The mandatory pit lane visit has to occur within between 20 and 30 minutes into the race, unless a safety car is out at that time, and then that is reprogrammed, if you will, by race control. Heck of a start by Marvin Dienst. He's pulling away in that number 7 car, the Talksport machine that Berke Bessler will take over. I thought Berke Bessler did a good job when he started the car yesterday. Obviously, it was difficult to get into any kind of rhythm, and that is the Karajan Kempe Motorsport car in the pit lane.
And back out again. So whatever the issue was, they've been able to fix it quite quickly, and good to see, and we've had this conversation a million times before, that there's a hire car sponsorship on that car, because I'm surprised that we don't see more hire car sponsorships across motorsport. Sixt sponsoring that car, so good effort from them. And back onto circuit. This is the drivers that we saw in the second part of yesterday's race. The first part of yesterday's race, heavily compromised by a safety car. They didn't get a huge amount of running, 5 or 6 laps, before they had to hand over to their second drivers. The second drivers got a clear run of things. But of course, for the likes of Marvin Dienst, he did the second. Oh, we have got a safety car now. So Marvin Dienst's great start is going to be eliminated. That's a real shame. For him to lose what was a 5.5 second advantage over Torsten Kratz, who is missing. It is the Reiter Engineering Ligier, I think, the 24 of Elliot Engemeyer, who did a really good job yesterday, but does not seem to be crossing the Sector 2 line.
Just coming down through Fagnes now, that car. So I wonder if it's had an
Remember, that's predicted on there. That's like a pretending.
Yeah, good point. Good point. This is good news for Jesse Salman Autio in the Karajan Kempe Motorsport machine, which made that unexpected pit lane visit. That won't count as the mandatory stop. It was too early. That number 72 will be able to get all the way back around and onto the back of the queue. Question will be, is the 24 actually moving?
Well, no, because the predicted said he should be on this part of the track.
We should be able to see him now, and he's not.
So I predict that he's over somewhere around Speaker's Corner.
Yeah, I
because
think
he's completed the first sector of the lap, but hasn't completed the second sector. And the first sector, the first sector ends at Le Com, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So somewhere around Speaker's Corner, Pouan area is where we might have lost the Reiter Engineering car. 11 has a 5-second time penalty.
Started in the wrong place. Torsten Kratz. Now, So this is very bad news for Torsten and the Spiegel team Monschau keep, because as the field closes up, of course, trying to get the 5-second gap to hold his position is going to be more and more difficult. Rumbling across the line in front of us is Jesse Salmen Autio. That car now running fine. Yeah, definitely was flashing its rear lights when I saw it over the top. I wondered, you can't really miss a gear unless you get caught between gears with a selection problem on these cars. They are paddle shift, so basically just using 2 pedals. But he was very slow up the hill to Radion, and just as it went across the top, I thought I saw the rear lights flashing, which always seems suggests to me that they've got the pit lane's speed limiter on. So he may have just knocked that by accident in the push and shove of the first couple of corners, and not being able to get it off. But the car was sent. Joe Bradley's had a quick word with the team, and they've sort of shrugged and said, it'll be fine now.
So this would be the area in which I would be expecting to see a missing car.
And there you're spot on.
There you go.
It's down towards Fine, and...
Well, that's good news that he's not actually even hit anything, has he?
No, he's gone off early in the piece coming into Fanye and slid sideways into the new gravel there. I've got to say, this is a controversial view from Hindhoff. No surprise there, perhaps. I'm going to say, I think putting the gravel traps back is absolutely the best thing that could have happened for Spa, because Spa, the layout of the circuit is brilliant, but it was actually too easy with all of the runoff areas, because your mistakes didn't have any consequences, basically. And if you're going to turn in Formula One to Pouhon flat out at 260 kilometers an hour and know that if you get it slightly wrong, well, you can just run all 4 wheels off and come back on again, it will have no consequences. You'll lose that lap if you're in qualifying. That's not a challenge as far as I'm concerned. Many years ago, I spoke with Alex Wirtz, whose son Charlie was competing this weekend in the ADAC Formula 4, and Julia's here as well this weekend, Alex's wife. And we were at Suzuka and talking about Turn 1 at Suzuka. And a lot of people were braking so late at Suzuka, they were either spinning or they were going on and then rejoining. He said, when there was a gravel trap there, you couldn't do that. You couldn't go over the limit and then back yourself off.
Yeah.
The skill was getting to the limit and not going over it.
Yeah.
And that's the skill of a racing driver, and that's the skill that most of us mortals don't have. It's very easy to go over the limit and back yourself off rather than do it the other way. I think this is really good for motor racing. I think this is really good for Spa. I think it brings back the carrier. We've got a red flag with 40 minutes and 40 seconds on the clock. The clock is still running for the moment. I'm going to suggest that what the problem is they can't get that car dragged out. So there must be suspension problems on the Reiter Engineering Ligier there.
Or the tow hook has failed, because there's a decent enough truck there to be able to pull it out, even if they didn't have any wheels at all. We saw yesterday, actually, the Nielsen racing machine being recovered by literally sliding it across the ground. It didn't have any wheels rotating. Its suspension was broken. So I wonder whether the tow hook that should be on the front of that car is not there. And unless Mr. Tractor has failed, also a possibility, because they're now bringing in the other tow truck, I think, to give it another bit of a tow. We might have 2 things to recover here, John. We might have an LMP3 and a digger to pick up.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. I think that the Snatch Tractor has...
I do try to avoid the word Snatch Tractor.
Oh, I love the word Snatch Tractor. It's not a live snatch, though, in fairness, because obviously now they've red flagged it. 40 minutes and 46 on the clock. I suspect with a tight schedule today, that might get slightly reduced as the whole field comes through. And here's the problem, you see. They're going to have to now, with the heavier of the 2 recovery vehicles, okay, perhaps not in service, what they're going to have to do is put a longer tow hitch on from the Ford Ranger pickup and drag that car
Yeah.
staying on the track and then drag the errant LMP3 out.
We can't see it on that shot, but the marshal in the black suit has pulled something from the front of our recovery truck to the front of the LMP3. So I think the two of them are now attached. They are, so that can recover.
Wait, don't pull it back yet. Ah, he's got a winch. He's got a winch on the front of the Ford pickup truck.
Cool.
So let's, whilst this is going on, Ben and I will keep an eye on that. Let's have a chat with Franz Conrad of Conrad Motorsports. Should have been in the number 2 car, but chipped his elbow. But the Ginetta up to 3rd position, Joe.
Well, we're going to ask Franz if he knows anything that we don't. Franz, what are you hearing? It seems to be a bit of a task for them to recover that car out of the gravel.
Yeah, I think they're a little bit slow here. They should a little bit push more harder. It's only 12 cars out now, and I think it was not important to make a red flag. There would be double yellow would be fine. Well, anyway, this is the decision of the race director. It's his choice, so we can do nothing. So we come back to the start and finish line and start again.
A little bit different, this prototype challenge for you guys, a sprint race. We're used to seeing Conrad Motorsport in the longer distance races. What brings you to this championship?
Oh, it's a German championship. It's close to us. All the race trucks are close. And I think the LMP3, I like it. It's a nice championship. Sure, we must think about now. It's a different story. Even what you mentioned, we win the long distance races normally. And this is a sprint race, really a full sprint race. We're working on it, and I think we will get there.
Does it work as a training platform for drivers to move into the longer races?
Yes, of course. We must learn to understand the car, and the crew must learn everything, the rules. I think this is a good improvement for us, and then we will come back for the long distance.
What's your thoughts, Franz? I've got an opportunity with this red flag to talk to you about this. We're seeing changes coming about with the regulations at Le Mans and in other sports car championships like IMSA and the like, which you're very familiar with. Do you think it's a great idea that we're seeing a convergence now and cars that are eligible for both the American Series and the European and the International World Endurance Championship?
Of course. I think this is really the way to go. We see what the GT3 Championship, what Stefan Radell did, it's growing. So I think it's the best way to combine it with America, with all the other race series. And I like. We will go to America for sure. I like it.
I was going to ask you that next. What's that? Are you working on something? Are you looking towards trying to put a deal together to do that?
Of course, we're working on it. Of course, we won't. You know, I'm now a really old man. I retired already a couple of years, but that keep me young, and I like it, and I will go for sure.
We're great to see you there, Franz. Thanks for talking to us. Always great to talk to Franz during a red flag period. We've always got a lot to say.
Good to see Franz Conrad. He's run some cars down through. Give the Celine S7R its first win. Ollie Gavin, one of the drivers at Sebring. We're back down through the years when Ray Malik Limited, RML, were developing that car for Steve Celine. Being part of the fabric of international and world sports car racing for a very, very long time with that colour scheme. Very well known. Franz Conrad, what a character. Great to see him in supporting this championship. And I think that really shows how seriously this championship is being viewed. Yes, we've only got 11 cars here at the moment. But
It's the first ever race.
Well, the first ever race weekend. Yeah. And I think this will only grow. The P3 chassis, LMP3 chassis concept and spec driveline concept is very, very good indeed.
Where can you... the Michelin Le Mans Cup now has become such a high-level championship.
Correct.
Where can you train those drivers before doing that? There really isn't that many opportunities. There was in the UK, I think GT Cup introduced an LMP3 category, but there isn't really kind of a place where you can get good amount of track time in a racing environment. And this is filling that gap, isn't it? You can also run CN cars and LMP, what's they called LP4 cars as well, which the French Championship use. So there is an opportunity to run older machines, but actually what we're seeing here is young drivers gaining more experience because also the Michelin Le Mans Cup is only 5 rounds.
Yeah, I like this. gives you an opportunity to get a bit of track time, learn some new circuits. Good, very good.
And I suppose, will they be coming here in a couple of weeks' time?
The calendar for the rest of the season is very interesting, actually.
Wochenspiel Team Monchou took victory in Paul Ricard a couple of weekends ago. Now that would have been supporting the ELMS. So ELMS come here, and Tractor has recovered Tractor. Yes.
Yes, Manitou that was broken has been recovered by its friend. So we've got the first 2 rounds here at Spa-Francorchamps. Then we're off to the Nürburgring in July for the Prototype Cup Germany. This is a joint series that is run jointly by the ADAC and Creventic, who are the people behind the 24-hour series. Then Lausitzring in late August, and we finish at the Hockenheim Ring in October, the second to last weekend of October. So 4 events, 8 rounds, and the opportunity to, as Ben rightly says, for young drivers or those people getting into downforce cars maybe for the first time, to get a bit of experience. The clock has resumed running. We're down to 32 minutes and 50 seconds on my timing screen, although it's a little bit ahead of that on our screens.
Now, what's really cool about that calendar is your next round in July at the Nürburgring is supporting the Truck Festival.
Oh, yeah.
Which is just such an incredible event at the Nürburgring. ADAC GT Masters for Hockenheim Ring. So alongside 4 very, very prestigious events.
Yeah. The Nürburgring is on the Grand Prix track, of course, not on the full Nürburgring Nordschleife. I'm not sure even I would be brave enough to drive, or any of these drivers would be brave enough to drive a LMP3 on the Nordschleife. And the last round of the Hockenheim Ring then, on the 21st to the 23rd of October.
That's GT Masters.
That's GT Masters again, is it? All right. Well, they're prestigious, they're good tracks, and it's a good showcase for this brand new series, the brainchild of ADAC and Creventic. And as Ben was saying, LMP3 cars will be the top class. There's an opportunity for other categories to jump in as well, which I hope happens, because you've heard me say many times, dear viewer and listener, that the only way that you can learn about multi-class racing is to do multi-class racing. And you know, if you're going to go to Le Mans or IMSA and develop your career as a sports car or an endurance prototype driver, at some stage you're going to have to deal with multiple classes. And if you're a GT driver and all you've done is done single make challenge or something like that, you're not learning that. And I do think that it's important to introduce that multiple class system, and this championship has the capability for that to happen.
But at the moment, these guys are just concentrating on getting experience in an LMP3 car.
Yes.
And they don't need the added complication of trying to get round GT cars like you have in other championships. So I think this is a brilliant place. The entry fees are pretty small. Spa, the Michelin Le Mans Cup, will be coming here in September. So a great chance to get a little bit of setup work done on the car. It's exactly the same as the car that they will be racing in. Team Monchou using the same car that they had last weekend at Paul Ricard. And so all these, you know, many of these drivers are young drivers, 23, 24, 25 years old, building a career. Marvin Dienst obviously bringing himself in as like the pro, James Winslow as well. So they were also developing from a perspective of a gentleman and a pro driver.
And giving people like those 2 drivers, Matt Bell, of course, the tall Northeast England driver, with John Melsom in the Nielsen racing car, giving them an opportunity to do a bit of mentoring, and also, you know, for them, this is a business. They are pro drivers. Gives them an opportunity, another opportunity to ply their trade, and
5-minute board.
Also bringing up the next generation. So as you heard there from Joe, the 5-minute board has been thrown out, race resuming at 10:30.
Yes and no, because it's gonna leave the start line at 10:30 behind the safety car.
Yeah.
We're not actually going to go racing until another 5 minutes after that. And if this timer continues to tick down, we are not going to have very much racing, I'm afraid. And the work of Marvin Dienst and all these drivers who are in the car for the first stint, Matt Bell also, Nielsen Racing, should have made a much bigger impact had there been more laps. They're going to hand over to their second drivers. Second driver in the 7 car, for instance, as we saw from yesterday, far less experience. Did a great job, Bessler, but has experience in GT3 cars and GT4 cars, not in LMP3, so might find himself being chased down by those with more experience who are the second drivers.
So just getting the drivers... In fact, I don't think any of the drivers got out. I was going to say getting them plugged back into the cars, but just making sure that the cars are going to refire. The safety car will lead them around and we'll go back to green flag conditions, fingers crossed, when they come back to the main pits, the Formula 1 pits, which is, what, 1 corner behind where they are now. So they've got 3/4, 7/8 of a lap to warm up their Michelin tyres before they come back to the restart.
Oh, we've gone green already. Someone's pressed the button a bit early.
Not quite. That'll panic everybody down on the pit lane.
And we should say, because Franz, in the interview with Franz Conrad, he was kind of being a little bit critical of the marshals. Absolutely nothing to do with the marshals there being slow about recovering the car. Unfortunately, their hardware failed on them, and therefore they needed to get a second truck onto the track to be able to recover the first recovery vehicle. You can't have 2 recovery vehicles trying to tow each other out and cars going around.
I like the idea of having the electric winch on the front of the pickup truck, so that car didn't have to pull into the gravel. They just wound the winch out.
Well, we've seen that often, haven't we?
Oh, absolutely seen that before. I could drive it. Oh, if you've ever been unfortunate enough to be in a gravel trap, there are very few occasions when you can get out. And even if you're driving a road-going all-wheel drive car and you get in there, you've got to be really lucky and keep the momentum going to get it out of there.
I remember years ago at Silverstone, you didn't have the access roads that you have now, and you had to drive on the track to leave the infield.
Yeah.
You had to drive down the Hangar Straight. So often there would be cars in the gravel trap at Stowe because somebody had decided either that they've missed the access road or tried to do a cheeky lap, and there would be road cars be left in on Saturday and Sunday nights because various fans and people have got overexcited with the gravel traps. Impossible in a road car, or impossible in an MP3, unless you, as you say, have the momentum and almost speedboat through it.
Yeah, you've got to skip across it. Yeah, absolutely. It's almost that you use the bottom of the car as a bit of a boogie board on the gravel itself, and if you can keep that momentum going, you can maybe be lucky. Plenty of people will have tales of woe from, particularly I think of the infield at Le Mans or around the Bugatti circuit, where you get in and out of the infield there. Quite often when there's queues, you see people thinking, we'll be clever, we'll skip the queues, we've got a big 4-wheel drive, we'll go up into this gravel track. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. And everybody else is just looking. Yeah.
The reason why, usually under a red flag condition, we would stop the clock. But we have such a tight schedule here with this race back-to-backing with the resumption of the 12 hours that we basically don't really have an opportunity for that. So unfortunately, they are losing quite a lot of race time due to that red flag.
Yeah, and the reason that we can't extend is because there is a curfew, a noise curfew at 6 o'clock Central European Summertime here at Spa. Yes, they do have some noisy days that they are allowed for things like the 24-hour and the 25-hour races here, but there is this year the addition, and quite a lot of the track changes here is because of the addition of a round of the FIM, the Motorcycle Endurance World Championship, the EWC, and that of course means that's going to take up one of their noisy weekends as well. Fewer than 30 seconds before we get back underway behind the safety car. The clock is counting down to somewhere in the region of 24 minutes, and as they roll off now, the new pit stop window is still 10 minutes, and it will start in a minute's time. So my question is, if I'm a team manager now, I'm straight away going to be saying to the organisers, so can I pit at the end of this, as we've gone green?
Yeah.
They don't come in the Formula 1 pit entrance, they come in the endurance pit entrance after La Source. So as soon as you've gone green, surely you can pit.
If you've got the track position to be able to get across there, because you're going through La Source side by side because you're all condensed. You have to cut straight across to the right-hand side.
I reckon if you're at the back, that would be the little cheeky thing to do.
Well, who's going to do that? Because we do have the likes, I would say, Damien Klosek, who we saw spin in front of us before the start of the race.
He's got James to get in the car.
Yeah, so that would be a good one.
To get in the car.
Although he's the man paying the bills, so you want to give him as many
But do you want a
as
trophy?
possible. Or do you want a trophy? Yeah, it's always a bit of a tough one. But yeah, but Marvin Dienst, you need to give him a couple of laps to stretch his legs to try and build a gap so that when he hands over to Bessler, there is the possibility of a trophy. The number 11, Torsten Kratz, shares with Leonard Weiss. Who's,
Leo's very quick.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so that would work as well. Although actually, Torsten is the pro driver of that too.
Axel Jeffries,
He can do whatever.
I think he comes in.
Yeah.
If I'm Axel
Clear
Jeffries,
traffic.
I think he comes in, gets his solo pit stop done, and then uses the last 18 minutes, which is approximately what he had yesterday, to fight his way back through the field. In terms of pit stops, there is a mandatory pit stop time, the baseline time for 2 bronze drivers, and I'll say it now, we don't have 2 bronze drivers here, but if there are 2 bronze drivers, it's 85 seconds from pit in to pit out. Bronze and a silver, add 10 seconds. 2 silvers, add another 10 seconds. And keep on going with the various precious metals there. If you're a single driver, as Axel Jeffries is, his pit stop time is his grading plus an extra 5 seconds for the advantage of not having to get somebody in and out of the car and start again from scratch. It all actually worked very well yesterday, and I don't think anybody broke out of their brackets. There were a few people who were a little conservative, Ben, and were 5 or 6 seconds over their times, but there wasn't anybody who was too close to being on the money that they had to have any penalties applied.
We had somebody who couldn't get their gloves on, didn't we?
Yeah.
That was the biggest issue of our pit window, because there's no tyre change, there's no refueling, it's simply just a driver change. Right, safety car should be into pit lane by this point, and we can go racing. Green flag is flying. Marvin Dienst has made a really good start already at the head of the field. Axel Jeffries looking fiery in 3rd position, and they all file through the chicane and back to racing. They won't use the F1 pits, so the pit lane entry is after La Source.
Correct. Dienst then for Talksport with a good 1.3 seconds side by side for 2nd position. And 3rd, and 4th, and 5th. Let's see if anybody is peeling off into the pit lane this time around. I think they are. Yeah, absolutely, spot on. Damien Klosek comes in to the pit lane in the 777, as we thought he might. I think it was Jesse Salman Autio as well, who peeled in the Korean Kepi Motorsport machine. No, it wasn't. It was Giorgio Rosa. My apologies. In the Speed Factory car. So those 2 have come in off the back. They'll get their drivers in. So that'll be James Winslow in the 777, and it will be Santiago Concepcion Serrano who jumps in to the Speed Factory. I thought he'd started that car, actually.
Yeah, no, the timing screen did change its mind a few times at the start of the race.
Okay,
yeah.
So Santiago must have started yesterday. In fact, when I think back, of course, he did. So Klosek out, Winslow in, Rosa out, and Concepcion Serrano in. Meantime, we've got 20 minutes of racing to go, and the leaders are heading down towards the Double Gauche at Pouon. So these guys will have plenty of time to get the drivers in. One of the reasons that you have a mandatory pit stop time is in this form of racing, you do not want to be compromising safety and getting your driver buckled in.
So this is the Interpol. I know this is the Giorgio Rosso. I was about to say they did change the front end, but they didn't change the front end. It's a different car. Speed Factory Racing. Giorgio Rossa started yesterday, so I think this should be Giorgio getting back in, even though our timing screen says something different.
Okay.
Giorgio hasn't raced for some 10 years, so looking at the face, potentially. Concepcion found himself in the gravel trap yesterday in the 2nd stint of the race. So I think that should be Giorgio Rossi getting into the car.
Right.
Apparently, though, yesterday it wasn't fully correct either. So
there's one or two people who got their transponders the wrong way around, wasn't there? There'll be about 18, call it 19 minutes to go as Marvin Dienst, who has not yet made his mandatory pit stop, goes across the line. We have had the change for Jamie Winslow, who is not yet out. So Jamie, of course, being a higher graded driver, wasn't allowed to leave the pit lane at the same time as the Karajan Kempe Motorsport machine was. So he's had to sit for just a few seconds more, and we'll have more people coming down in the pit. Top three, all in the pit lane, Ben.
Yeah, Marvin Dienst will hand over to Bessler, Torsten Kratz, and then Axel Jeffries, not handing over to anyone, which has released Donna Munding and Matt Bell on circuit. Matt Bell losing one position on that last lap to Donna Munding. Munding had a really difficult first lap of the race, got really bullied off the racetrack, basically. And one of the big losers of that last lap was Gary Hauser in the Racing Experience Duquesne. He dropped to 6th position, has stayed out on circuit. Gebhardt also has stayed out on circuit in 7th. Well, it was 7th at the start of the lap. And then we have seen a couple of pit stoppers. Interesting to see where Jamie Winslow comes out. He's got cold tyres, of course. A professional driver on cold tyres can really extract so much more from the car when they are in compromised conditions.
Yes.
Let's see if he has done a good outlap to fight the likes of TalkSport and WTM.
He's just coming up towards the run-up to Blanchemont, so he's just come out of curve at Paul Frere. So this is going to be nice and tight. He will be on warmer Michelin tyres
as well,
of course, when he does get round at the front of the field. The cars in the pits, this will seem like a very, very long time indeed. The blue and white Mühlner Motorsport machine of Donna Munding ahead of Matt Bell and Nielsen Racing. They're battling between themselves as they go past the karting circuit on their right-hand side, just down in the valley. Now, across the line in front of us, that was James Winslow, who's just gone through. So who's rolling from the pit stoppers? I don't think anybody is. I think Winslow's going to make up a huge amount of positions here. A huge amount of positions. Here comes the Mühlner car.
Yeah, those two need to go into the pits this time because the pit lane will shut in 2 minutes, so they won't get round and get in.
Oh no, good point.
So we'll need to get the last 3 or 4 cars into pits. Birke Bessler is aboard the number 7 machine.
Mühlner stayed out. Mühlner Motorsport stayed out. They are going to have a really good lap here to get in.
No, they have a stunning lap.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to make it.
No.
It's 40 minutes and 59 seconds is when the pit lane closes. So he's got about 2.5 minutes. So he's got a hustle.
It's got 1.5 minutes, John.
Yeah.
Shuts at 40, does it not?
40 and 59 seconds.
And 59 seconds.
Yeah,
oh,
that's
well,
the key thing.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh. So I'm waiting to see when Jamie Winslow crosses the end of the first sector of the lap. That will give us a clue as to whether he is ahead or behind Birke Bessler, who is taken over from Marvin Dienst as our one-time leader in the number 7 TalkSport WRT machine. TalkSport all over the place, represented in Croatia this weekend, and where they're home rallying.
And that is the same team?
Yeah, absolutely. And they absolutely dominate the World Rally Championship in WRC2.
So
Bessler first, Winslow second.
Wow. Winslow. So that tactic paid off massively for Inter-Europol competition, and Jamie Winslow has got warm tyres. Donna Munding in the blue and white Mühlner Motorsport car at the head of the field at the moment, but will have to stop.
I think it's going to be quite interesting at the head of the field because it was a slow outlap from Leonard Weiss. Axel Jeffries 2.5 to 3 seconds faster than him, and actually faster than Jamie Winslow. So Bessler, Winslow, Weiss, and then Axel Jeffries will need to do some making up because, of course, Axel with a slower pit stop due to his single occupancy of that car. Santiago Concepcion actually ahead of Axel Jeffries.
So, yeah, these cars starting another lap at TalkSport were only just ahead of the yellow and green number 777 last time around. Now, they scored in 6th, 7th and 8th at the moment on the timing screen, but that is waiting to update after we've had the final pit stops. So the last two cars to come in are Müller Motorsport and Racing Experience, Donna Munding and Gary Hauser, and they did get in with about 10 seconds to spare. So they could not have done another lap. That's going to give the second driver somewhere in the region of 12 minutes to make their mark on this. So now, with those two cars in the pits, on the other side of the circuit from where we are, we need to keep an eye on where everybody else is as they come round. A very, very committed turn into the pit lane, shall we say, from Donna Munding, who laid down two big black stripes of Michelin rubber as he turned and pinched out to the right after La Source.
Yeah, exactly. Rather than letting the car run out wide, tried to keep the steering lock on and apply the throttle. A classic way of inducing a donut, and he did half of one right there. So pit stop done, watching the clock to make sure that he gets released at good time. And it's really close at the head of the field.
The leading group, the second group rather, is at Blanchimont at the moment. They'll be coming into our site on our left-hand side through into the bus stop in a couple of seconds' time. We're still waiting for these two final pit stoppers. The Müller Motorsport car is rolling just as we get the line of cars onto the straight in front of us. This is going to be pretty tight. We're going to have a battle royale for the last dozen minutes or so. Again, remember, the TalkSport into Europol and the Wochenspiegel Team Monschau cars are all going to be on warmer tyres. Coming through there as well was the Korean Kempe Motorsport machine.
Yeah, being passed by the Speeds Factory Santiago Concepcion, who has got past on that last lap John Melsom, dropping 2 positions for Nielsen Racing on the last lap. So Axel Jeffries up 1 spot. Axel's really being punished because of his pit stop time, and he's got some serious work to do to get into a podium position here. As who do they pass there? Is that car coming out the pits? I think it
Correct.
might well
that
be.
was the 12 car.
Salmonen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the
what was his Racing Experience?
Correct.
Gary Hauser.
Yeah.
So he's well up there as well.
Yeah, the Racing Experience 12 car has now got Sebastian von Gartzen behind the wheel, and that was the red, white and black number 12 car that was coming out of the pit. So the different tactics after the long red flag playing out in different ways, but now it's a level playing field. Now it's the race to the flag.
Berke Bessler leads for TalkSport WRT, just ahead of Jamie Winslow for Europol. Interpol, something very different. Leonard Weiss in 3rd position for WTM Monchou in the Duquesne, with Axel Jeffries chasing them down. Jeffries looking down the inside there of Jesse Salmonen. Couldn't find a way through. It can't be Jesse Salmonen Auto because that's changed drivers. So that's the second driver in that car. Jeffries hasn't found a way through, and all of this is losing him time and the potential of getting onto a podium.
It should be Sebastian Aramram in that car, the Scandinavian entered machine, Finnish and Swedish drivers.
And that was a challenge for the lead, or
they're very tight.
Müller
Motorsport are going to lead this across the line. So Matthias Luthen will lead across the line from Berke Bessler for TalkSport, then Jamie Winslow, who was one of the first stoppers, and down the inside, TalkSport into the La Source hairpin, and here comes Jamie Winslow as well. Stop and go penalty for Korean Kempe Motorsport. 2 violations, and that's not just a drive-through, that's an in, stop and out, so that's going to take that car well out of any opportunity. That's sitting in 7th position at the moment as they came out of the pits. Now, can Winslow? Oh, late move from the Mulner car. That's naughty. That's really naughty. Moving across in response there to block at the end of the Kemmel Straight into Lecombe. Pulled across to the right-hand side. Winslow will not like that. Got a good run. 2 different types of cars, of course. Winslow in the In the actually, no, they're both. No, that's the Duquesne and the Ligier. I was right the first time.
And was it the Duquesne that's got quite good top-end speed from
very
yesterday?
much so. Yeah.
We saw that in yesterday's race. Quite difficult to overtake at high speeds, and once again just seems to pull away as he's going up through the gears. And so Winslow has much better traction out the corners, but can't draw alongside. Eau Rouge, mistake there from the John Melson, running very, very wide at the top of Radillon. And all this fighting, all this boxing up of Winslow behind Matthias Luten is allowing Berke Bessler to stretch his lead for TalkSport. I thought Jamie Winslow would be able to chase him down, but this is the nail in the coffin, isn't it? How Müller Motorsport got out ahead and in the lead of the race. Great strategy from them.
Yeah, last 8 minutes of this race. Müller Motorsport, TalkSport, Berke Bessler, all that. But
Jamie can't get anywhere near that Duquesne.
no, absolutely. And that's allowing Bessler in the red, number 7 of TalkSport, one of the Ligiers. He crosses the line now in front of us in the sunshine, heads down to La Source. Then this 3-car battle for 2nd, 3rd and 4th. Müller into Sport down the inside. Winslow has to be late on the brakes, has to be decisive, can't quite get there, but he might be able to get the acceleration down the hill. Has he got the pick up from the corner? He hasn't got the grip out of the corner.
Well, he had to pinch, didn't he? But he had to get out of it because he was squeezed. Seriously aggressive driving from Matthias Luten, and it's going to bring Leonard Weiss into the equation as well.
This is where Winslow was good last lap around, but I don't think he's close enough. He's got a good run through Radillon there, through the little kink at what is called turn 7, but it's Leonard Weiss. Leo Weiss is the one looking most likely at the moment. These 3 LMP3 cars, little bit of mind games going on from Jamie there, maybe just to discourage Leo behind him as well. So the H&R sponsored blue and white, 2nd place Müller Motorsport Duquesne at the moment. Oh, a big moment for Leo Weiss there at the top of the hill at Malmedy, putting the left rear Michelin into the gravel trap there.
And he's in a Duquesne as well, so he has that top speed advantage. And therefore, Jamie's got to really be careful looking in his mirrors. Again, possibility, difficult place to overtake into Double Gauche, into Pouon, because there's not much of a braking zone. Tries to keep the momentum going into a better braking zone. Here would be a good place to go down the inside into Fagnes, but of course the circuit goes left after this corner. Less of a good place to go side by side.
Got to get a good run out of Campus and Stavelot, Curve Paul Frere, to give him an opportunity through Blanchimont on the brakes into bus stop. I think that's where he's got to try and do it.
Look at the gap though, he's pulled out just on acceleration.
That was out of Stavelot. I mean, that car is very, very quick. That Duquesne is getting good grip from the centre out of the corners, and this is allowing Berke Bessler to build something of a 4.5 second lead.
And it was all in the last lap.
Yeah.
The lap times are hugely different. Bessler is just able to get his head down and do qualifying lap after qualifying lap. Doesn't have to worry about preserving his tyres. Good, nice, hard Michelin tyres, and also the fact that they've only really been doing about half an hour's worth of work. Again, Jamie Winslow really, really close. Again, aggressive, very, very block pass, karting styly down the inside. Yes, but there's a good grunt and there's good slipstream for the Duquesne. No, 3 wide.
Oh, so close between the 2 Duquesnes. Leonard Weiss and Matthias Luten, very close indeed to a big shunt that would have been going down towards Eau Rouge. Now, Winslow's got by, and crucially, I think he's broken the toe. Leo Weiss is sitting in behind the blue and white car. You can barely see him at the moment. And then following them is the Speed Factory Racing team. Defensive move into Lecombe.
Oh, that's beautiful from Leo Weiss. Touch. No, that was great driving round the outside, had the overlap, and I don't think Matthias was expecting that to happen and pinched it himself, spun it around.
Yeah, into the right-hand portion of Lecombe. Jamie's cleared off. Now, there was a big defensive move early on. Was there a little touch? No. Up on the curb on the right-hand side. Good eyes from Ben Constantinos alongside me, John Hindhoff, as we down into the last couple of laps. Down to 4 minutes plus a lap now for the leader, Berke Bessler.
To be fair, though, Matthias has been pretty aggressive with his
Yes, he
defensive.
has.
You had to be aggressive with him to get past. And Jamie Winslow improvising through the last couple of laps to try and find a way through. Great karting block pass into La Source. Sat the car on the apex so that nobody could get the shortest line through the corner. And then Leo Weiss, again, improvising round the outside the first part of Le Com, pinching his opponent. And unfortunately, Matthias wasn't able to keep the car facing the right direction. Incident is under investigation, though.
Well, Race Control have more angles than we do in the commentary box. They can use the closed-circuit TV that's here as well. And they may have seen something else. But I've got a feeling if there was no touch there, that's going to be no further action. One more lap, 2 more laps to go, I reckon.
Now, who's on the tail of Leo Weiss?
That's Speed Factory.
Yeah.
So that's the number 5 car, which we think is Giorgio Rosa who took that car over.
I think it should be, unless the timing screen was wrong from yesterday, which is also a possibility. In which case it is, I think they would have got it right today and got it wrong yesterday. So I think it could well be Concepcion, and therefore it was Giorgio Rosa who put the car in the gravel yesterday.
Oh, I see what you mean, yeah. My arithmetic's never been my strong point. It was double period on a Friday many years ago when I was at Farringdon Comprehensive School in Sunderland. And so we will have this one and 2 more, I reckon, because remember, it was 50 minutes and 1 lap. So when the time elapses in 2 minutes and 22 seconds, we still have to have 1 more lap after that. It's battling further down the field at the moment.
We've got about half an hour before the second part of the 12-hour race begins as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Stay tuned to us on the Radio Show Limited network of audio and visual channels. Well, this is boiling up quite nicely. Winslow's got the better part of 10 seconds to try and close in on the leader. He's got 12 seconds back to Leo Weiss. He's got 3 seconds rather back to Leo Weiss. He's got half a second back to the Speed Factory Racing team. But decent little battle going on further down between Axel Jeffries and the...
Yeah, Sebastian von Gartzen in
Yes.
the racing experience, number 5th position.
Correct.
Yes, it is. No further action on the incident between 21 and 11, so that's good news for Leo. I think it was the right call there from Race Control. Surprising to see Axel Jeffries not being able to get past the racing experience Duquesne. But again, this is a Ginetta this time versus a Duquesne. And as we have seen from the Duquesnes further up the field, they are difficult to pass.
Very quick in a straight line. Very, very. And what is Spa? You know, it is a compromise between straight line and downforce, but you would say it was a quick track.
Yeah, you can either choose for ultimate lap time, which does mean maybe having a better car through the widdly bits, but having a slow car along the straights, versus having a fast car on the straights that is unable to be passed, and then you just sit frustratingly through the slower parts of the track.
Berke Besler is driving away from Jamie Winslow at the moment. It's over 10 seconds now, getting on to 10 and a half. Got 2 two-car battles, though, for 3rd and 4th and for 5th and 6th. So Leo Weiss is defending against Speed Factory Racing, which we think is Giorgio Rosa behind the wheel. And then we've got the battle for 5th and 6th between Sebastian von Gartzen and Axel Jeffries. 2 pairs of cars, both on the Camel Straight at the moment. The leading pair just going into Le Combe. Then the Conrad car in the wheel tracks, but lost, what, 2 or 3 cars lengths there?
Yeah, right in the slipstream going down the hill into Eau Rouge, but then by the time they get to the end of the Camel Straight, that's, yeah, at least 2 or 3 car lengths, isn't it? And again, he'll close in all the way through the wiggly bits and just have nothing on the brakes and the big braking zones at the end and the start of our laps. Frustrating for Axel Jeffries.
Yeah, it must be.
Because he knows he can run faster through here. He knows he's got the momentum, got the grip, got the downforce, but the car is not set up in the way that the Duquesne is. And even if the Duquesne is not, it's only the top 2 are Ligiers. Duquesne in 3rd position for Leo Weiss. So in ultimate lap time, it's not the strongest car, but in terms of trying to get past it, it is.
TalkSport on their way to surely a race 2 victory here. The time has elapsed, but we do have to do one more 7-kilometre, 4-mile lap of Spa-Francorchamps, resplendent once again in sunshine today. Tiny bit of very wispy cotton wool cloud around the place, but it's another beautiful day. Nowhere near the wind that we had yesterday, which was making it feel quite chilly, particularly if the sun went behind a cloud, but less cloud today and less wind. It's going to be an absolute scorcher today for the final 6.5 hours of the 12-hour race. On to his final lap. Berke Bessler for TalkSport WRT. Winslow in second is not gaining. He's just put his fastest lap of the race in at 2:15.527, but that was not quick enough to take any time out of the leader. It's now over 11 seconds. 3 seconds further back, Leo Weiss and Giorgio Rosa, we reckon, battling for third place in the final step on the box.
One more chance perhaps for Axel Jeffries to get really good momentum up over Radion and perhaps try and find a way through. But the gap is already too big, isn't it? He's not close enough. Even if he gains through Eau Rouge and Radion, he's not going to be close enough here. And there will only be one more opportunity into the braking zone at the end of the lap, into the bus stop chicane for Axel to get himself up into 5th position. But ultimately, considering it's just him in the car, I think he'd be a bit frustrated to find himself in 5th after this one, as well as missing the podium in the first race. And he probably wouldn't have done much better if he had Conrad beside him.
No, don't think so. Although, of course, it would have been a 5 seconds
less
quicker pit stop.
Yeah.
He had a 2-minute stop because of his driver grading, plus the extra 5 seconds. So that's where he has been disadvantaged. Nothing to do with the potential for the car or his driver. Oh, huge moment for the leader! Right at the bottom of the hill, almost through, a certain victory away. Coming out of fine for the final time, Berke Bessler all over the curbs and flirting with the gravel trap. Lost the back, lost the front, lost everything, and almost lost the race. Victory in the last half a lap. That will have put his heart rate up just a little bit, and I think he'll be cruising to the line from there. My goodness me. Final lap, final couple of corners for Berke Bessler. It only has to come through the bus stop to take race 2.
It's been an absolutely fantastic drive from Berke Bessler in a car that he's unfamiliar with. Just a couple of tests, takes the checkered flag, and victory for TalkSport WRT. And it's going to be by an increased margin over Jamie Winslow in the Inter-Europol. What could have been for Jamie had he not got past the kind of roadblock that we saw, that actually Matthias Luton down in 7th by the end of this race. Very close between Leo Weiss and the Speed Factory for 3rd spot. And then we await the battle for 5th. Sebastian von Gartzen is going to keep it ahead of Axel Jeffries, 5th and 6th. And then Matthias Luton, who was so aggressive to try and keep himself on the podium at the start of our resumed race, but ultimately spun out down to 7th spot.
So, unofficial results then sees TalkSport, the number 7 car of Berke Bessler, started by Marvin Dean. Still on Marvin. He did his job, but didn't have to do that much work. So Berke Bessler will be getting all the plaudits there. Good strategy as well to keep them at the head of the field. And they unofficially have taken the 2nd race of the 1st season in Prototype Cup Germany. In 2nd place, Damien Klozek started. Jamie Winslow finished for Inter-Europol competition. Again, they used strategy. They were well down the field at the restart, but an early pit stop for them allowed Jamie Winslow to work his way back up into 2nd position. And the 3rd position team, Wochenspiegel Team Monschau, WTM, Leo Weiss finishing off the race today after Torsten Kratz had started it. Speed Factory in 4th, Racing Experience 5th, Conrad in 6th with Axel Jeffries driving on his own. Müllner in 7th after so much promise, but unfortunately Donna Munding not able to do as much of the driving as he wanted with the red flag that we had. Gebhard Motorsport in 8th position, 9th for Nielsen Racing. Ryan Kepmi Motorsport with an issue earlier on, which looked to me like it was the pit lane speed limiter, and rounding up the field, Reiter Engineering in 11th position here for the second race of the 2022 season. So we have 3 race weekends in Germany coming up. Hockenheim in October, Lausitzring in August, and next up for the Prototype Cup Germany on the 15th to the 17th of July will be in the Eifel Mountains at the Nürburgring. Join us then for more Prototype Cup action from Ben Constantiouris, Joe Bradley and me, John Hindhaugh. Thanks for joining us this weekend at Spa.